I worked the graveyard shift at a Shell station off Route 9 for 8 months. The job was simple: keep the register stocked, pump gas when the self-serve broke down, and stay awake until 6 a.m. Most nights, I'd see maybe 3 customers between midnight and dawn, truckers mostly. Sometimes a lost family drives through. The station sat alone at a highway exit with nothing around it but pine trees and darkness. No streetlights. No other buildings for miles. Just that fluorescent glow cutting into the night like a wound. I thought the isolation would bother me, but honestly, I preferred it to dealing with the day shift crowds. At least that's what I told myself before the regular started coming in. He showed up every night at exactly 2:17 a.m. I know the time because I started watching the clock after the 3rd visit. He'd pull up in a gray sedan, always parking at Pump 4 even when the other pumps were closer. I always bought exactly $8.60 of regular unleaded. Never more, never less. He'd come inside, pay with a 20, take his change, buy a black coffee, and leave without saying a word beyond the transaction. Middle-aged guy, average height, wearing the same blue jacket every single time. His face was forgettable in that deliberate way some people have, like he practiced being unmemorable. The routine was so precise it felt rehearsed. After 2 weeks, I started having his coffee ready at 2:15. He never acknowledged it, just took the cup, paid, and walked out. The pattern continued for 3 months. 2:17 a.m. Pump 4, 8.60 in gas, black coffee, gone by 2:23. I mentioned him to my manager once during a shift change. She looked at me confused and pulled up the transaction logs. According to the system, no sale had ever been recorded at 2:17 a.m. during my entire employment. I insisted I had the receipts, but when I checked the drawer, the timestamps showed different times, all slightly off. 2:11, 2:19, 2:24, never 2:17. I thought maybe the register clock was glitching, but my phone always showed 2:17 when he arrived. I started taking photos of my phone screen when he pulled up. Every picture came out corrupted, just gray static with a timestamp of 000. Then one night he broke the pattern. He came in at 2:17 like always, but he didn't go to Pump 4. He parked directly in front of the store windows and just sat there, engine running, staring at me through the glass. I kept working, restocking cigarettes, trying to ignore the crawling sensation on the back of my neck. After 10 minutes, he got out and walked to the door, but he didn't come in. He stood with his hand on the handle, his face inches from the glass, still staring, not blinking. I asked if he needed help. He didn't respond. I asked again, louder. He smiled then, but only with his mouth. His eyes stayed completely dead. Then he returned to his car and drove away without buying anything. The clock read 2:17. It had been 2:17 the entire time. The next night, I considered calling in sick, but I needed the money and convinced myself I'd overreacted. He arrived at 2:17. This time, he pumped his gas normally and came inside. I had his coffee ready. He took it, but instead of paying, he leaned across the counter and whispered, "You're always here." His breath smelled like raw meat. I stepped back and told him that would be $8.60 for the gas and $2.40 for the coffee. He placed a 20 on the counter but didn't let go of it when I tried to take it. "You're always here," he repeated, "even when you're not." Then he released the bill and left. I checked the security footage the next morning. The timestamp showed 2:17, but the parking lot was empty. No car, no person, just me behind the counter pouring a cup of coffee into the air. I quit 2 days later without notice. My manager was annoyed but not surprised. The graveyard shift had high turnover. She asked if anything had happened, and I told her I'd found a better opportunity. I didn't mention the regular or the missing footage, or the fact that I'd started seeing that gray sedan in other places. Outside my apartment at night, in the parking lot of the grocery store, always parked, always empty, always somehow watching. I moved to a different city 6 weeks later. The drives helped me relax, especially late at night when the roads were empty. I've been careful not to stop at gas stations after midnight. But sometimes, when I'm filling up during the day, I'll notice someone staring at me from their car. They're always too far away to see clearly, and the clock always reads 2:17 when I look down. Every time. I've stopped checking. I tell myself it's a coincidence, that I'm just noticing it because I'm thinking about it, but I know that's not true. Last week I found a receipt in my jacket pocket, the one I was wearing that last night at the Shell station. It was for $8.60 of regular unleaded and 1 black coffee. The timestamp said 2:17 a.m. The date was 3 days in the future. I burned it immediately, but that doesn't change what it means. He's not following me. I think I'm the one who's been following him. Or maybe we're both stuck in the same loop, circling each other at 2:17 forever. I don't know anymore. All I know is that I'm afraid to look at clocks, and I'm terrified of what I'll see if I ever do stop at Pump 4. My brother Danny disappeared from a Chevron station in rural Montana 15 years ago. He was 19, driving cross-country to start college in Seattle. He called me from the road around midnight, saying he'd stopped for gas and coffee, that he'd be in Washington by morning. That was the last time anyone heard from him. The police investigated but found nothing. His car was discovered 3 days later at that same Chevron, parked and locked, keys in the ignition, his wallet and phone on the passenger seat. The tank was empty. Security footage showed him arriving, pumping gas, going inside, and then nothing. No exit, no abduction. He was just gone, as if he'd walked into a blind spot and never came out. I've made the drive to that Chevron 8 times over the years. I don't know what I'm looking for anymore. Closure, maybe. Or proof that I didn't imagine the brother who vanished into thin air. The station changed ownership twice since 2009, but the building is the same. The layout hasn't changed. Same tired lot, same flickering sign, same empty highway stretching into darkness in both directions. The current owner, a man named Gil, knows the story. Everyone local knows the story. He's sympathetic but helpless. He's checked every inch of that building. There's nowhere to hide a body, no secret rooms, no basement. Just a gas station in the middle of nowhere that swallowed my brother whole. On my last visit 2 months ago, I arrived at midnight. I wanted to recreate Danny's timeline exactly. Same time, same day of the week, same weather even, clear, cold, moonless. I filled up at the pump he'd used, Pump 2, and went inside. Gil wasn't working that night. A younger guy was behind the counter, early 20s, bored and half asleep. I bought coffee and a candy bar, the same items listed on Danny's receipt. The clerk rang me up without interest. I asked if anything strange had ever happened during night shifts. He shrugged and said it was always quiet, dead quiet. Then he laughed at his own unintentional joke. I didn't laugh. I stood there drinking terrible coffee, studying the store, willing it to reveal something. The security camera in the corner caught my attention. It was pointed at the register, same angle as the one that recorded Danny 15 years ago. I watched the little red light blink steadily. That camera had seen him. It had recorded him existing and then not existing. I asked the clerk if I could see the footage from that night, from 2009. He looked at me like I was insane. He said footage wasn't kept that long, that it was probably recorded over within days. Besides, the police had taken everything back then. There was nothing left to see. I knew all of this, but I asked anyway because I had to do something. I couldn't just stand there with my brother's ghost. I left around 1 a.m. and sat in my car in the parking lot, engine off, watching the station. I don't know what I expected to happen. Maybe I thought if I waited long enough, I'd see something that everyone else had missed. The clerk left around 2, locking up and driving away in a beat-up Honda. The lights stayed on inside, the way they always do at 24-hour stations, except this one wasn't 24 hours anymore. Gil had cut back to closing at 2 a.m. after a string of robberies. I was alone in the lot with a locked building full of lights and no people. I sat there for another hour, watching absolutely nothing happen. Then I saw movement inside. Someone was walking past the windows. Just a silhouette moving from the back of the store toward the register. I got out of my car, my heart hammering. The doors were locked. I pressed my face against the glass and looked inside. Empty, completely empty, no one there. But I'd seen movement, I was certain of it. I walked around the building, checking every window, all empty. I tried the back door, locked. I was about to convince myself I'd imagined it when I heard the sound of a door chime. The front door chimes, the one that rings when someone enters or exits. I ran back around to the front. The doors were still locked, but now there were wet footprints on the tile floor inside, leading from the door toward the back room. Fresh footprints. I called Gil, woke him up and told him something was wrong at the station, that someone was inside. He arrived 20 minutes later with a baseball bat and his brother-in-law. We searched every inch of that building together. No one inside. No broken windows, no forced entry. The footprints had dried, but they were still visible. Gil examined them, confused. He said the pattern looked like hiking boots, men's size 10. Danny wore size 10. I didn't tell Gil that detail. I stood in the middle of the store, surrounded by fluorescent lights and mundane products, and felt the weight of 15 years of absence pressing down on me. My brother had stood in this exact spot, alive and ordinary, and then he wasn't. The building had taken him somehow, kept him somehow. I haven't been back since that night, but I can't stop thinking about those footprints. They were wet, like someone had walked through rain or snow, but it hadn't rained. The ground outside was dry. I've started researching the area, the history of that land before the station was built. Nothing remarkable. Empty grassland, used for cattle grazing. No burial grounds or historical significance. I've spoken to the families of 3 other people who disappeared from gas stations in Montana between 2005 and 2012. Different locations, but the same pattern. Nighttime stop, security footage cutting out, person never seen again. No bodies ever found. The police think they're runaways or voluntary disappearances, but the families know better. I'm writing this down because I've decided to go back. Not to visit, but to stay. I'm going to spend a night in that station, doors locked, completely alone, and see what happens when you're there at the exact wrong moment. Maybe nothing will happen. Maybe I'll just spend a cold night in an empty building. Or maybe I'll find out where Danny went. Maybe I'll follow those footprints to wherever they lead. If you're reading this and I haven't updated it within 48 hours, you'll know I found something. Or something found me. Either way, the not knowing will be over. That has to count for something. Gil agreed to let me do it reluctantly. He'll check on me at dawn. I'll be there tomorrow night, Saturday, the 15th anniversary of Danny's disappearance, waiting in the same building that took him. The Sunoco on Highway 42 had been closed for 6 years when I stopped there at 3 a.m. last November. I was driving home from my sister's place, still 2 hours away, running on fumes and stupidity. The station appeared suddenly around a curve, lit up like it was open for business. I almost missed the turn. When I pulled in, everything looked operational. Bright lights, clean pumps, a flickering open sign in the window. My phone showed no signal, but that wasn't unusual for that stretch of road. The mountains swallowed cell service for miles. I got out and tried my credit card at the pump. The reader was dead. I'd have to go inside to pay. The door chimed when I entered, but nobody was behind the counter. The interior was immaculate, almost sterile. Rows of snacks perfectly aligned, refrigerator cases humming, fresh coffee brewing. Lottery tickets displayed behind the register. Everything was there except a person to take my money. I called out several times. No response. I waited 5 minutes, then 10, shifting my weight and listening to the fluorescent lights buzz overhead. I've worked retail. I know people take bathroom breaks, but something felt off about the silence. It was too complete, too heavy. The kind of quiet that happens when you're the only living thing in a space. I should have left then. I should have coasted to the next station on whatever gas I had left. But I saw the handwritten note taped to the register. Pump first, pay inside. Back in 5 minutes. The handwriting was shaky, urgent. I went back out and filled my tank, the pump clicking along normally. $32 even. I returned inside to wait. The clock above the counter showed 3:14 a.m. I'd give them until 3:20, then I'd leave cash on the counter and go. I busied myself looking at the magazine rack. Most of the publications were current, nothing obviously old. But then I noticed the dates. The newspapers were from 2018. Not yellowed, not dusty, just 6 years out of date displayed like yesterday's news. The milk in the refrigerator had expiration dates from October 2018. The promotional posters advertised a Coca-Cola campaign I vaguely remembered from years ago. 3:20 came and went. The station remained empty. I pulled out $40 and placed it on the counter, weighted down with a candy bar so it wouldn't blow away. As I turned to leave, I noticed a door behind the counter marked employees only. It was slightly ajar, and a light was on inside. Against every instinct I had, I walked around the counter and pushed the door open. The back room was small, just a desk, a filing cabinet, and a cot with rumpled blankets. Papers were scattered across the desk. Invoices, schedules, handwritten notes, all dated 2018. A calendar on the wall was stuck in October. The 17th had been circled in red marker with the words "Last Chance" written underneath. That's when I saw the photograph pinned to the bulletin board. It showed the gas station at night, lights blazing, and in the foreground, parked at the pumps, was my car. Same make, same model, same license plate, but I'd never been to this station before. I'd never even driven this route before last night. The photo was dated October 18, 2018, printed on the back. I was staring at it, my brain refusing to process what I was seeing when I heard the front door chime. Footsteps moved through the store, slow and deliberate. Someone was humming tunelessly. I stayed frozen in the back room, afraid to make a sound. The footsteps stopped at the counter. Papers rustled. Then a voice, thin and strained, called out, "I know you're here." I didn't respond, couldn't respond. The footsteps came around the counter, approaching the back room. I looked for another exit, but there wasn't one. The door swung fully open and I saw him. An elderly man in a Sunoco uniform, name tag reading Earl. His face was gray, his eyes sunken and wrong, focused on nothing. He tilted his head and said, "You're late. You were supposed to come 6 years ago." I stammered something about needing gas, about the station being open, about this being a mistake. He stepped closer. "You were supposed to come on October 17th. I waited. I kept everything running. I kept the lights on. You were supposed to stop." His voice broke on the last word, desperate and angry. I ran. I shoved past him, knocking over the coffee pot in my panic, and burst through the front door into the parking lot. My car was still at the pump where I'd left it. I threw myself into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine started immediately. I floored the accelerator, tires screaming as I fishtailed back onto the highway. In the rearview mirror, I saw Earl standing under the bright lights, watching me go. The entire station flickered once, then went dark. Completely dark, like it had been abandoned for years. I drove without stopping until sunrise, until I reached a town with people and traffic and reality. Later, when I had cell service again, I looked up the Sunoco on Highway 42. It had closed in October 2018 after the owner, Earl Brennan, disappeared. He'd been working alone on the night of October 17th when he vanished without a trace. Search teams found the station locked up, lights off, register balanced. Earl's car was still parked behind the building. No signs of struggle, no indication where he'd gone. He was never found. The station was sold to a development company but remained empty. I read the article 3 times, my hands shaking. Then I checked my bank statement. The charge for $32 of gas had been posted. The transaction location was listed as the Sunoco on Highway 42, time-stamped 3:14 a.m. I filed a fraud dispute, but the charge wouldn't reverse. It's still there, permanent proof of something impossible.